I've decided to make this video to explain my own feelings about the case that happened in Bisbee, Arizona, where the LDS Church was let off the hook for the abuse case of 2 children, one of which was known for 7 years. I guess what's brought me to this is the statement that the Mormon Church made, which has been bothering me. They were happy with the judgment, stating that the court had found that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and its officers, its clergy, had handled the matter in accordance with Arizona law. Now, the whole argument is all based on the First Amendment. The First Amendment guarantees that the establishment of a religion and the practicing of it shall not be impeded by any laws. Okay. What doesn't make sense to me is that a major tenet of Mormon religion is, if ye keep my commandments, ye have a promise. But if you keep not my commandments, you have no promise. I mean, this is basically my mom's favorite verse that she always quoted at us. So the Mormon Church went to legal court to say, we have a right to practice our religion and you can't impede it. But according to Mormon theology, the rights inherent in living that religion only come to you if you live it. So with the church not protecting these girls, they weren't living their religion, therefore they cannot claim the rights and protections of it under the law. Let me explain this a little more. This is from the website of the Mormon Church. Baptism is the first promise or covenant that Mormons make to become a member and to continue on in the faith. It's the first step in what they are now calling the covenant path. This is the blessing that is said every time on the bread, every Sunday. It's like Mass. If you see the underlined part, Mormons covenant, that they will keep the commandments which God has given them, that they may always have His Spirit to be with them. If they don't keep the commandments and remember Christ, they won't have God with them. Okay? The next step after baptism is to go to the temple, where there's a bunch of different ordinances that are done, because like the high parts of being a Mormon, like in order to get back to heaven, is to make sure that you have the ordinances done. This script is from the initiatory, which occurs before the endowment in the temple. This is taken from the men's initiatory because the women don't get the same blessing that you see circled in red. Men and women's promises are different. So in this ceremony, all parts of your body are washed and anointed, washed with water, anointed with oil. And it says, I bless your arms and hands, that they may be strong and wield the sword of justice in defense of truth and virtue. And while this may not technically read like a covenant, it is a preparatory ceremony or ordinance, initiatory, necessary for Mormons can enter into the endowment ceremony, in which they make serious covenants. And let's show you how serious they are. So again, I'm reading to you from the script of the temple. Nothing's off the cuff. It's always the same words said. Great for brainwashing. So, the endowment is to prepare you for exaltation in the celestial kingdom. If you proceed and receive your full endowment, you will be required to take upon yourself sacred obligations, the violation of which will bring upon you the judgments of God, for God will not be mocked. And then participants are given the opportunity to withdraw rather than commit to it, even though you're not told what you're committing to until you are in the process of committing to it. But, I mean, that's my experience. Anyway, they know that they're about to make big, boku, huge promises, right? Okay. Still reading from the script of the endowment. This is one of the laws that you covenant to keep. And they put it under a blanket because they don't want to sit there and read it all. We are required to give unto you the law of the gospel as contained in the Book of Mormon and the Bible. Okay, this includes the taking of the name of God in vain. I'll get to that in a minute. So here's the covenant. Each of you will bring your right arm to the square. You and each of you covenant and promise before God, angels, and these witnesses, because they have like 4 temple workers as witnesses, at this altar, that you will observe and keep the law of the gospel and this charge, as it has been explained to you. Each of you bow your head and say yes. Okay? So Mormons put themselves under covenant to obey the commands and teachings of the Book of Mormon and the Bible. Okay? Judge in Cochise County, are you listening? And before I go on to review some of the Mormon beliefs from their own scriptures, let me remind you of MJ. This is the child who the Mormon Church let be abused for 7 years. And it's for her that I'm teaching people in Bisbee, people who are Mormon, who don't understand what the big deal is. It's for her. Because I am a survivor too. Probably the verse used most often by all of Christendom, including Mormonism. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones, little children, which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Mormon theology goes even deeper into this little ones which believe in me thing. In the Book of Mormon, the Book of Moroni, chapter 8, starting in verse 19, a long discourse is laid out. And we're taught that children can't repent. They're covered by Christ. The actual number is birth to age 8. And if you even think that a child requires baptism, you're destined for hell, okay? The main reason being in verse 24, which sounds a lot like Anabaptist belief. But anyway, it is that you cannot repent if you're not under a broken law. So children have made no covenant. They're still learning the law. Therefore, they can't break it. And they're covered by the blood of Christ. Okay? Okay, so you remember that thing I talked about from the Mormon initiatory where men are given a sword of justice? There's a really important part of the Book of Mormon in Alma chapter 46 where Captain Moroni, a prophet general, introduces something called the title of liberty. It's in memory of their God, blah, 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 and their children. It's in defense of their children. So Mormon men know these are the things they are supposed to defend. And they also know the consequence of what happens when they don't. Here's the consequence. If they don't do these things, they covenant that they shall be destroyed if they fall into transgression, if they don't do things like defend children. In Mosiah 4, in the Book of Mormon, King Benjamin, I think, or Mosiah, one of those two, they're related, they teach that, okay, you should, if somebody puts up a petition to you, help me, and you put them out to perish. So let's think about MJ again. She goes to her bishop and says, help me. Please help me. The Book of Mormon God says, you're going to perish. Your condemnation will be huge because you had it and you did not help them. And with their over $100 billion in money, the Mormon Church has the resources to defend and protect abused children in the legal court system. The reason they give, again, is they have no duty. No duty. Yes, they do. They have made covenants where that duty is laid out word for word in their faces as I have outlined. But I'm not done yet. Part 2 is next.